Hello and welcome back everyone to another review and recap for a very emotional episode of Survivor 50 in the Hands of the Fans, episode 12. We go from the final 7 down to the final 5, and the 5 players that will be going into the final episode to try to get to the top 3 and be at final tribal council. Now, I'm jumping way too far into the future. We first got to start off this episode with how last episode left off, and that was the double elimination. Yes, 2 episodes back-to-back, double elimination. We first have Cirie's tribe coming back, and Rick is trying to make some jokes, trying to make light of the situation, but Cirie is like not having it whatsoever because her name came up. You know, if she didn't have that extra vote, things would have been a lot different. So Rick decides that he's just going to pipe down until the rest of the players join up. And that's where we see that Ozzy is gone. Rizzo tells Cirie everything about Ozzy, just blabbing everything about his game, who he's close with, all of the advantages and everything to Aubrey, to everybody, and he became a liability. I'm sure Cirie isn't the most thrilled about everything that has transpired, from her name written down, to Ozzy leaving, to then being told that Ozzy gave up all the information and possibly her game along with it. Well, I did mention Rick, and way early in the morning, Rick is looking around everywhere feverishly for an idol. Aubrey is the one that tells Joe and Jonathan that Rick is gone, looking out for any protection, and Jonathan is following him like green on grass. And Rick eventually just is like, there's no idols. You know, he sits down on the hammock, he is getting emotional, he's thinking that his game is officially done, his time has run out. I will say that I know that Joe and Rick have been on opposite sides and not seeing eye to eye this entire game, but Rick getting emotional with Joe standing there, I was expecting Joe to have a confessional, do an eye roll, anything, was actually very comforting to Rick in this moment, and I was very happy about that Joe was comforting Rick. This is where everybody grabs their stuff, heads down to meet up with Jeff for this week's Immunity and Reward Challenge, which is trying to stack these blocks to spell out immunity on a very floppy table. This particular challenge has been played so much over the years, and really there's not much to this one. Like, I can't really show too much of the competition because it's all just pretty much the same. I mean, you have some players getting very close, like Aubrey and Tiffany and Rizzo, but they all fall, as this table is very floppy. The only person that is steady the entire time is Slow-Mo Joe, who is moving slower than a snail's pace, but somehow, this is a strategy that works, because if you move even 1 mile per hour, this table just instantly just like goes up or down 90 degrees and your tower is completely done. And because of this strategy, Joe is able to win. This is his second time winning this particular challenge, and upon winning, he gets individual immunity, as well as he can choose 2 people to join him for a barbecue picnic. He picks Cirie, he picks Rizzo. They go enjoy the food while everybody else goes back at camp and listen to Tiffany yelling at Jonathan for sticking his tongue in the uncooked rice jar. Like, absolutely gross. I understand you haven't eaten, but let's be civilized, alright? Tiffany is frustrated not to get picked for the reward, but also, why are we continuing to let Rizzo have a free pass just because he has an idol? Idols give you a free pass when you play them, yet everybody decides not to vote for Rizzo thinking he's going to eventually use it, yet he doesn't. And so we're giving him the free pass because he has an idol, when we should be putting our votes on him, making him use it. So Tiffany is frustrated, tells Rick, I want to vote Rizzo. Rick is thinking, this could be good for my game. He tells Aubrey. Aubrey's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But then in her mind, she's like, if everybody is just mad at Rizzo, especially on the jury, also he's super young, nobody has seen him play before this season, maybe he's a great person to sit next to at Final Tribal Council. While Aubrey's trying to figure out a plan to keep the vote on Devens, Tiffany tells Jonathan about voting for Rizzo. Jonathan seems 50-50 about it. He can't make a decision for himself. He has to find Cirie to get validation of what he should think. And Cirie's thinking, yeah, Rizzo's got the idol, but I can't trust Devens at all. We should just vote for him. Thinking that Rizzo's gonna have her back, as if we just didn't have the Ozzy vote where Rizzo was ready to sell Ozzy down the road to get further into this game. Well, when we get to final tribal council, everybody decides to go the easy route. Rick Devens rolls the die and gets not safe, so he didn't have a vote, he's not safe, and everybody just votes for him. Unanimously, Rick Devens is officially out of the game, and like I previously mentioned, this is a double elimination, so we get right into the next day with the final 6. In the morning, Tiffany is talking to Jonathan and Aubrey and is like, I told you, Rizzo didn't use the idol. If she was mad once about giving Rizzo an out, she's even more frustrated that he's still here and still has the idol. Right when she leaves, Aubrey floats it out to Jonathan that, look, Tiffany is a threat. She's great at challenges. Everybody on the jury likes her. She should be our next target. And Jonathan is like, you know what? 100%. We gotta do this. Jonathan spreads Tiffany's name all over the place, including telling Rizzo. But then Jonathan says, hey, Tiffany and Cirie are super close with one another. They're each other's number ones, it feels like. You can't tell Cirie anything about the Tiffany vote. Well, Rizzo goes and tells Cirie anyways. And this development will be very important later on, but for now we're gonna put a pin in that as we get to the next immunity challenge, which is a survivor obstacle course where everybody will go into a cargo net teeter-totter tunnel, come out the other side. You have to free your handle doing like a slide pole circle puzzle thing to get a handle, and then you're gonna have to use the handle to transfer 8 puzzle pieces over another teeter-totter, and then use all the puzzle pieces to make an archway puzzle. You have to complete the puzzle spelling the word inconceivable on both sides correctly to get the win. Now look, coming into an immunity challenge, I'm thinking that everybody understands that it's every person for themselves. Even if there is a common target amongst everybody at camp, I'm still under the impression that everybody is trying to win it for themselves. However, I am deeply confused, baffled, and a little frustrated by when we get to the end of this obstacle course and you have Joe and Jonathan out in front and they're talking about what the word could be. Then you have Rizzo coming up and they're asking Rizzo, what's the word? Aubrey comes up, Aubrey, what's the word? Aubrey doesn't even try her puzzle whatsoever. She is glued to Joe's puzzle trying to get him to spell inconceivable correctly. I mean, truly, Joe and Jonathan shouldn't even be in the running for this immunity win, given that they can't even spell the word inconceivable. If this was just purely solo and everybody just doing their own puzzle, they would be out. But everybody is putting all of their eggs into Joe and Jonathan's baskets, hoping that one of them will win over Tiffany, so that way she is wide open to be voted tonight at Tribal Council. The applause that I give when Tiffany, the only person working by herself, gets this, mounting a huge comeback to get this win, I was so happy. But at the same time, I went, what's going to happen now? Who is going to be the vote? Well, everybody comes back to camp, and Rizzo's telling everybody, well, I'm going to use my idol no matter what. Don't want to pull an Ozzy and get blindsided at Tribal Council this far into the games. Well, then everybody is like, well, might as well not vote for Rizzo because he's going to use his idol no matter what. So now we got to make other plans. And this is where Aubrey decides that she's going to throw out Cirie's name. Cirie is a big threat to win this game. If she even comes close to Final 3, she is winning this game. It was tough seeing Aubrey throw her name out to Rizzo, and Rizzo just instantly go, grab it, run to Jonathan, run to Joe. They're supposed to keep Tiffany out of the loop, but Cirie always knows what's going on. And so while sitting on the hammock with Tiffany, Cirie is like, I just hope they're not voting for me tonight. And Tiffany is like, what, you? Why would anybody vote for you? And Cirie's like, come on now, seriously? We're this late in the game, everybody was going after you? Now that you have individual immunity, people are looking at me, looking at Final Tribal Council, looking to the future. This is where Cirie is going to try to pull her biggest move in the game, and that is convince Jonathan to swap the vote by blaming Aubrey as the rat, because Cirie goes to Jonathan and says, I know all about your plan to try to vote out Tiffany, because somebody told me, somebody in your operation is a rat. He's like, I knew I could never trust Aubrey. She's the rat. So he's going to Joe, being like, Aubrey told Cirie everything about the Tiffany vote. I would like to vote out Aubrey tonight. Maybe we should swap the votes over to Aubrey. Joe then takes that information over to Aubrey. Truly, Joe fascinates me because I feel like I know everyone he's working with, but when it really comes down to it, I'm like, he's just telling everybody anything. You know, if there's a blind side to anybody, he's like, hey, everybody, you know, they're blindsiding you. So he tells Aubrey, who Aubrey denies it. But this is telling Aubrey that Cirie is now trying to pin it on her to put votes on her. It's going to be Aubrey versus Cirie. Jonathan goes and talks to Rizzo one last time to be like, Aubrey said something about Tiffany to Cirie. Aubrey can't be trusted. I don't trust her moving forward. And Rizzo's like, yeah, but stick to the Cirie vote. So going to tribal council, we know that it's either Cirie or Aubrey, but it feels like we are on the monorail. We are getting Cirie a one-way ticket to Ponderosa, and I get nervous and sick in my stomach as we go to a commercial break and then come back to Jeff asking question after question, asking Cirie and Aubrey, you guys have played it so many times, getting so deep into the game. Do we get to a point in this game at this tribal council that you're thinking, what if my time is up? What does that do to you? Is that looming over you? It's like, okay, Jeff, I know that you're in the bushes just listening to all of our conversations and you know exactly what's going on. Now, when we get down to the actual votes, 2 people vote for Aubrey, which is Cirie and Tiffany, and everyone else votes for Cirie. Cirie is unfortunately voted out of Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans. I felt like it was going to happen eventually. Cirie has always had a very potent, incredible social game in any reality TV show she has ever played, whether it's Survivor, Big Brother, Traitors. She is always able to get so deep into the game. And in Survivor, it just always seems to be around the final 6 or the final 3. If you're looking at Micronesia, where they reverted back to a final 2 instead of a final 3. It's just unfortunate. I was really rooting for Cirie. It just felt like early on in the game, early on in the season, that she was getting so many confessionals. She had her finger on the pulse of this game. So many players were going to her for help, decision making, for information. I mean, even Jonathan, all the way up to this episode, just kept on coming up to her being like, we got to talk to Cirie. We got to know what she's going to do. We got to know what she wants to do. And what's best for my game. Cirie will tell me. I truly thought there was a point where Cirie tells Jonathan about Aubrey being the rat, that maybe that could have been the deciding factor that completely turns this whole thing around and she at least gets to final 5. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't happen. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Rizzo still didn't use his idol. But yeah, this was one of the most emotional episodes of the night. Of course it would be. We're so far deep into this game that people are sad, upset, this deep into the game. So few players left that their chances of winning are completely gone, but at the same time, it is also still the experience and getting to play the game that they love so very much. And, you know, Rick is always optimistic, always in a good mood, cheery mood, and always see the positive in everything, but he was getting emotional just knowing that his game was coming up to the end of the road if he didn't win individual immunity, and watching Cirie getting voted out is never easy. I truly thought at one point that this would be her season. I was like, maybe there's a shifting of the signs after last week's episode where she got a couple of votes and, you know, could this be the changing of the tides? But, you know, I thought, no, you know, it's Cirie. She can get herself out of every situation, you know? And I thought there were going to be other targets that are going to be much bigger than her. But unfortunately, with so few people left in the game, her target was just too big to miss. And she was voted off, you know? I think overall, in the game sense, you know, I can completely understand it as a fan. It's tough to see and it's tough to watch and it's very heartbreaking. But now all we have left is the final episode of Survivor 50. We have 5 players left, all going to battle it out to try to be the top 3 to get to final tribal council, to then talk to and answer questions from the jury, trying to get them to vote for one person to be sole survivor of Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans. But that is next week. I now want to turn it over to you. What'd you think about this episode of Survivor 50? Let me know down in the comment section below. What'd you think about Rick being voted off in a landslide unanimous vote? Do you think that was the smart thing to do? Or do you think that was too easy, that maybe somebody should have picked up Rick and tried to make a big move? I'm personally kind of shocked that we had such a unanimous vote this late in the game. You know Rick is out. Like, why not try to make a big move this late in the game to try to set yourself in a better position moving deeper into the game? You know, I know that one person is going to win, so all of these moves are going to seem like a smart play from somebody's point of view. But everybody else who doesn't win, I think they can look back at this vote being like, why didn't we just like pick up Rick for 1 or 2 votes and then vote him out at Final 5 or Final 4 or, well, Final 5 because you get to fire making at Final 4. But anyways, what did you think about the Rick Devens unanimous vote at Final 7? Let me know down in the comment section below. And what did you think about Cirie being voted out at Final 6? Were you upset about that vote? What do you think about Rizzo not playing his idol at all this entire episode? Let me know anything and everything you felt about this episode down in the comment section below. And with 5 players left, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting against? Let me know anything and everything down in the comment section below. I desperately want to hear your thoughts and opinions before the Survivor 50 finale. And now I'd like to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more Survivor content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.